Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Captain's Log, Stardate 2017. We're entering another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, and boy, do we have a great show for you this evening. Now, depending on your age, tonight's guest will mean something different to you, because his career spans multiple generations. Growing up, he was in two of my favourite Twilight Zone episodes. He was Captain James T. Kirk in Star Trek, and of course T.J. Hooker. But my sister was more of a Romano kind of girl, played by Adrian Schmed. But that's a story for another episode. The younger listeners may even know him for movies like Miss Congeniality, playing Stan Fields, because let's face it, nobody says Texas quite like William Shatner. But despite his iconic career as an actor, author and even singer, how many of you listening now knew about his involvement in the tech world? For example, back in 1997, Shatner teamed up with travel discount site Priceline.com. Now, to put this into perspective, Priceline's Nasdaq-listed stock price has travelled from approximately $16 for the initial public offering to $1,840 more recently, where it now rests with a $90 billion market cap. So maybe we shouldn't be too surprised to hear that William Shatner is now back on the startup scene again with an exciting new company called LottoGopher. Much like Netflix disrupted the movie rental business and Uber hailing a cab, LottoGopher is disrupting the lottery industry for Americans. So this is the part of the show where I usually beam your ears to another part of the world so you can hear today's guest. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different. It would be rude not to say this, so Scotty, beam me up because it's time to speak with the one and only legendary William Shatner. Greetings and salutations from the UK, Mr. Shatner, and a warm welcome to the show.
Okay. How long will the UK last with the Brexit thing, do you think?
We don't mention the B word. We can never mention the B word. It's too soon.
Well, then we'll stick to the L word.
I love it. Can I begin by saying that your 2004 cover version of Pulp's Common People, produced by Ben Folds, is still one of my all-time favourite cover versions. Did you enjoy recording that album?
Oh, it was so much fun, and I tackled that is one of the great numbers. I don't know really what it means. The original was so beautiful that you didn't mind that you didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. but it was like the Christmas cake in the MacArthur Park. But it's a beautiful musical thing, and I felt challenged by it, and I had a good time doing it. And I know it was sold to some advertiser, unbeknownst to me, but that's another story.
What I love about you, though, is that you're a Renaissance man in every sense. I mean, there's so much more to you than James T. Kirk. You've got an iconic career in TV, movies, a recording artist, a New York Times Bestselling author. But was this all part of your master plan, or did it just open yourself up to opportunity along the way?
Yeah, there's no master plan. You learn past the age of 12, I think, that every plan you make is like war. Once you're into life, the plan goes askew, and you're just doddering along, trying to stay upright.
As this is a tech show, there's going to be a few people listening thinking, it's great to have William Shatner on the show, but what's the tech angle? I mean, but you were involved in the world of tech startups before it was even a thing.
Well, Neil, I don't need to tell you that the revolution is going on in the social media, and that everything is changing on how you buy things, and if you rent your films from Netflix and you order your cab. Listen, London just barred Uber from working there. Uber has destroyed the taxi industry because it's so convenient and so cheap. And now you come along and you get LottoGopher, where buying your tickets is online. I mean, it's a revolution. You know, when I read about it and when they offered this opportunity to be a part of a new thing happening, it resonated with me, and that's why I'm part of it.
I was going to say, we must get bombarded by companies wanting to work with you. So I was curious, what grabs your attention and makes you want to invest your time in a project like LottoGopher?
I guess the word resonance is resonating.
Yeah.
It feels good. I mean, everybody wants to be a millionaire instantaneously, and they buy a ticket. They want to be a millionaire, and against all the odds, they buy a ticket. And every so often, lightning strikes. Now you can avoid going down to the sleazy corner store and stay in the security of your home and take your chances. It's an extraordinary jump in technology to being able to select your number and select everything you want online. In fact, this morning, I just bought online something I was going to go to a feed store for. We're going to have puppies, and I need a dog run, and I was going to go down to the big handy store in Los Angeles, and lo and behold, you can order it and delivered to your home, and which is what I did this morning. So everything is evolving, and LottoGopher is at the top.
So right in what you're saying there. I mean, there is no Kodak, there is no Blockbuster Video anymore, is there? It just shows you how the world is evolving thanks to technology.
And I don't know how old you are, Neil, but for me, you have to will yourself to go with the changes, because it's a human tendency to cling to the past, and the future is enfolding us more quickly than we can imagine.
Absolutely. Well, I am a man of a certain age, and as I'm in my middle age, you're so right in what you're saying there, that you do cling on to the past. You know, you don't want to be the guy that's resistant to change and doesn't want to move forward. And that's one of the things I love about you, because you just throw yourself in there, don't you? I mean, you're also a big hit on Twitter.
Well, it's part of the adventure. I've got some books out there now that are doing well. A book on horses and a science fiction novel. But I'm in the middle of finishing up a book on aging, and the premise of the book is I can't tell you anything. I don't know anything, so how can I tell you anything? All I can tell you is what works for me, and maybe it'll work for you. And so, given that premise, what works for me is jumping into things and seeing what happens.
Yeah, and that's what you did as kids, isn't it? You know, we didn't overthink things back then. It's only as you get older you become more cautious and less open to things.
Exactly. And failure used to be, failure was not an option, was the phrase. But failure is an option, and you learn by failure, and you can't avoid failure. So don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, I was chatting to a guy only a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me, I don't fail, I learn. And that's a line that resonates with me too.
But that's exactly right. So here's LottoGopher, a brand new way of doing what has been around for quite a while, buying a lotto ticket, but it's a brand new way of doing it. And rather than being offended by it, jump in, go for it.
Ah, see what you did there. Now, will you be bringing your much-loved sense of humour to LottoGopher's marketing efforts too?
I think so. I just finished a online, I hate to use the word commercial, an online informative piece of film, and hopefully it's done with some fun.
Speaking of fun, I mean, your sense of humour really shines through on Twitter, and I love your tweet a few days ago about Justin Trudeau's socks a few days ago. I mean, do you ever find yourself having to rein in that mischievous side sometimes, knowing that everything you say is going to be shared thousands of times all over the world?
Yes, again, talking about new things, all the bitter, evil, black things that are said on Twitter,
yeah.
There are a giant wave of people who are of the opposite ilk. There is, in my opinion, and I sense that there is a large number of people on Twitter who want to do good. As a result of that, I'm forming a social media event or continuing charity, if you will, called the Ubuntu Discovery. And Ubuntu is the South African word, I believe it, I'm not quite sure which native language it is, meaning humanity. And I want to organize Twitter so that you can give $1, $10 to your neighbor who might have a need. And I'm setting up that organization on Twitter, trying to get Twitter to the company Twitter to help, as well as people to monitor validity of a person saying, I need some help. There are many examples, and not enough time to do that here, of people who want to help other people and expressing that desire on Twitter, and I'm trying to organize that emotion into something more concrete using Twitter, which is a social media, as a whole new way of helping people.
And what better way for Twitter to actually manage that image problem that they've got at the moment with the dark side?
That's exactly right, Neil.
So there have been a few Star Trek anniversaries recently, with the 50th anniversary where you visited Birmingham NEC here in the UK last year, and of course Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which was the first VHS film I ever rented. So looking back, how do you feel about the franchise now? And do you still enjoy meeting fans at those conventions?
Well, I go every so often to, they're calling them Comic-Cons, and I'm in fact coming to the UK for the Love of Sci-Fi in Manchester, the 2nd and 3rd of December.
Fantastic. Well, while I've got you here as well, I wanted to ask you a question from my childhood. So indulge me if you may. I mean, can you offer any insider knowledge about how many takes it took Heather Locklear to perform that throwing a police baton to take down a crook move? Because I've tried many times with my friends as a kid and I never got there.
I spent the day working with her. Very beautiful young girl. Needed a lot of help. We all tried to help her. We put our arms around her. We gave her cooing advice. It was a good day's work.
Now, before I let you go, from one tech guy to another, I've got a sales pitch for you. Let's imagine a sat-nav system where drivers can navigate to the sound of your voice, and we call it the Shatnav. Can we make it happen? I'm open to take only 20%.
Brilliant idea. 20% is too much.
Well, a big thank you for coming on today. Before I let you go again, can you just remind the listeners of where they can actually get LottoGopher website?
Where can they sign up for LottoGopher?
Okay.
Go to LottoGopher.com.
No.
Like the way I changed my voice, it sounds feminine.
Love it. Now, you've been a hero of mine since the Nick of Time episode on the Twilight Zone. Star Trek II was the first film.
That's a long time, Neil.
Oh, it was a classic episode. Star Trek II, like I said earlier, was the first film I ever rented, and I've practiced that Heather Locklear.
Oh, wonderful.
And I've practiced that Heather Locklear.
And Heather Locklear's the love of your life, right?
Don't tell my wife, whatever you do.
She's a sweetheart.
But it's the fact that you've proved that you can be clever, successful, with a diverse range of work, but not afraid to laugh at yourself or be a little bit silly. And you're incredibly down to earth. And I think it's that warmth that is possibly your biggest talent. So a big thank you for coming on the show today.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. Take care now.
I think William Shatner really is a Renaissance man in every sense, and even more so than his iconic career. And I celebrate his mischievous side too, and the ability not to take himself too seriously. And I recommend anyone listening to follow him on Twitter. I mean, his recent tweet to the Canadian Prime Minister for his choice of Star Wars socks was pure comedy gold. But in a world where the media would love to pigeonhole Mr. Shatner as James Tiberius Kirk, he has somehow found a way to break out of his mould and simply be himself. So don't be fooled into thinking he is merely cashing in on his celebrity status on tech startups such as LottoGophers or being the Priceline guy. Make no mistake, behind that laughter is also a very clever and shrewd businessman. So I'll happily admit I was more than a little bit nervous about speaking with one of my heroes tonight, but you know what? I had nothing to worry about because he was an absolute gentleman. And I always try and take away something from every guest that I talk with. And after speaking with William Shatner this evening, I'm going to make you a promise. And that is I'm going to continue to work hard to try and be as successful as I can by creating a diverse range of work. But I'm also going to throw that rulebook out of the window and never lose any of my mischievous side and continue to find humour and laughter all around me and be open to any opportunities. So as always, a big thank you for tuning in to listen to this show in a world that's full of distractions. It's an absolute pleasure to serve you, my audience, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.